Hi there, it's me, John, and thank you for purchasing the Chronicle of Medical Surgical Nursing. And this clip will talk about infection control. Just a reminder that infection control is one of the highlight topics in any qualifying examination for nurses because infection control has something to do with safety, whether you are a safe nurse to practice in the clinical setup or you're a safe nurse to protect the welfare of your patient as well as your healthcare team member. Okay, under your CDC or Center for Disease Control, there are two tiers for your infection control, and these are the following tiers. So you have your tier 1, and tier 1 happens to be your standard precaution. Okay, standard precaution, or sometimes you call this as universal precaution. Okay, and you have your tier 2. Okay, your tier 2 is actually transmission-based precaution. Transmission-based precaution. Just a reminder that your tier 2 is under the umbrella of your tier 1. Okay, now let's start with your standard precaution, your tier 1 or universal precaution. Now, do not forget that in your standard precaution still, it is hand washing said to be the most effective way to prevent disease transmission. Okay, so here, do not forget that hand washing is still the most effective way to deter the spread of microorganisms. Now, under hand washing technique, if you can remember, there are a lot of factors for hand washing. You have water, you have duration of hand washing, lathering soap, and friction. Okay, those factors are important, right, for an efficient hand washing technique. But there is one important factor there that plays a vital role to have an efficient or effective hand washing technique, and that is friction. Do not forget that. Friction is the most important component in your hand washing. It will increase its efficiency. Now, part of your standard precaution, aside from hand washing, is of course using your PPE or personal protective equipment. Remember, this is another common question in any nursing qualifying exam. With respect to your PPE, you need to know as a nurse how to don PPE and how to remove. When you say donning, it's wearing PPE. When you say removing, we also call it as doffing PPE. Okay? So let's try to divide this. So this is what we call donning PPE, and here is doffing PPE. Remember, donning means wearing PPE. When you say doffing, it's removing PPE. Okay, now your technique in donning is actually your go-mag-go-glow. Okay, I know you encountered this in several videos or other lecture notes. It's very common, and do not forget it's go-mag-go-glow. Okay, so you have your go-mag-go-glow. So what is this? First to wear is the gown. After gown is your mask. After mask will be your goggles. After goggles, you wear your your gloves. So if you will forget go-mag-go-glow, just do not forget this action. Okay? So this is short go-mag-go-glow. Go-mag-go-glow. So what's the point? First thing to wear is the gown. After gown is your mask. After mask, your goggles. Last to wear, gloves. Go-mag-go-glow. Okay? So this is the proper way or sequence in wearing PPE or donning PPE. Now, what about doffing or removing PPE? Your technique here is that when you doff or remove PPE, all you have to do is reverse the sequence and donning, but you have to remove mask last. Okay? So here, all you have to do is reverse donning, okay, and remove mask last. Can you follow? So let's go back. So when you say removing or doffing PPE, so the first thing to remove is of course your gloves. After that, your mask, your goggles. Then you remove your gown. then last to remove will be your mask again. So when you remove PPE, the first thing to remove will be your gloves. After gloves, your goggles. After goggles, you remove the gown. Then after that, you remove the mask. That's the correct doffing sequence. Remember, doffing, reverse donning, but remove mask last. In donning PPE, I said gumagaglow. Again, it's your gown. After gown, mask, then goggles. Last to wear will be your gloves. Gumagaglow. Okay? So that is under your standard precaution or your universal precaution. Now, in your transmission-based precaution, do not forget this, we categorize this precaution based on disease transmission. So under this tier 2 are the following. First is your airborne. Next is your droplet. Third is your contact spread. Fourth is your enteric precaution. And letter E, I added reverse isolation. Okay? So these are under tier 2 for the transmission-based precaution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss each precaution and identify what appropriate PPE will be used and what are examples of your airborne problems, droplet problems, or contact infections. Okay? So let's start with your airborne precaution. Okay? So when I say airborne, we call it airborne because the microorganism here is suspended on air. Okay? It is actually suspended on air because the microorganism is so small. Okay? Because of its size, the microorganism is lightweight. It will not go into specific surface because if the microorganism goes in a specific surface, that becomes droplet. Am I right? So again, in airborne, the microorganism is small. So tell me, what is the size of microorganism for airborne? Usually, it's less than 5 microns. Next, in airborne transmission, question, what do you think is the most appropriate PPE you need to wear? Well, in your airborne, it is a must that you have to wear a HEPA filter mask. HEPA, we're not talking about the liver, okay? Your HEPA actually should be capital letters, okay? Your HEPA stands for highly efficient particulate air filter mask. One good example of your HEPA mask or HEPA filter mask is your N95. Okay? Now, things to remember about HEPA filter or N95. Your HEPA filter mask is ideal for airborne transmission. Okay? And your HEPA filter must be replaced every 8 hours. So don't forget this. You have to change this every 8 hours. Q8. Okay? Next, if your patient has airborne transmission, do not forget that the ideal room for the patient is what? Are we talking about positive pressured room or a negative pressured room? Now, in airborne, the ideal type of room for the patient is a negative pressured room. Okay? Negative pressured. Question, sir, what is the difference between a positive pressured room and a negative pressured room? Look, let's say, take note, positive and negative pressured room. Now, a positive pressured room is a room that gives air. Okay? A negative pressured room is a room that sucks air. In short, the moment you open the door of a positive pressured room, it gives air. Can you follow? Air gets out. But the moment you open the door of a negative pressured room, it sucks air to get inside the room. Can you follow? It sucks air to get inside the room. Therefore, airborne infection, airborne diseases must be admitted in a negative pressured room. Why? Because if here is your patient and patient has airborne diseases, I said the microorganism is so small and that microorganism is suspended in air. Am I right? That when you open the door, there's a possibility that the microorganism will get out. And when that microorganism gets out, it may infect okay, people outside. That is why to protect people outside, admit the patient in a negative pressured room so that when you open the door, air gets inside. If air gets inside, microorganism inside the room of the patient cannot get out because there is an opposing current coming in. It will contain the microorganism to stay inside the room of the patient. Can you follow? Whereas positive pressured room is ideal for patient under reverse isolation or patients who are immunocompromised. By the way, sometimes in your examination, they don't use reverse isolation. They use another term for this, and the term for reverse isolation, yeah, sometimes they will call it as protective isolation. Okay? Now, why is this room ideal for reverse ISO? Because a patient under reverse ISO is said to be immunocompromised. That is why if the patient is immunocompromised, you need to protect the patient not to get infected, right? You need to protect the patient not to harbor infection from other people. That is why whatever microorganisms outside cannot get inside the room. Because when you open the room, air gets out. It gives air. So whatever microorganism outside the room of the patient cannot get inside and infect the patient inside the room. So in your positive pressured room, we protect the patient. Okay? In your negative pressured room, we protect people outside the room of the patient. Okay? Now, highlight your exam. A patient under airborne transmission, as a nurse, you will get inside the room of the patient to check his or her vital signs. The question there, who will wear the mask? Patient or the nurse? Answer, the nurse will wear the mask because you as a nurse will get inside the room and check or assess or check vital signs of the patient. So if you get inside, okay, if you get inside the room of the patient, you wear the mask. But if there is a need for you to transport the patient or move the patient out of his room, because most probably the patient requires chest x-ray or for whatever reason, so if you move the patient out from his room, the patient will wear the mask, not the nurse. Can you follow? So do not forget those situations or conditions. Now, going back to airborne transmission, allow me to erase this please. Now, example of your airborne transmission is your MTVHZ. Okay? M stands for measles. T stands for your tuberculosis. V stands for your varicella. H stands for your herpes zoster. Okay? So these are examples of your airborne infections. By the way, when I said measles, what is another name for measles? Another name for measles will be your rubella. Now, what about rubella? Okay, rubella is another term for German measles. What's your technique? Your technique here is rubella, one L. One L, one word. Can you follow? Rubella, two L's. Two L's, two words. Can you follow? Now let's go back. Having said that measles, rubella is an airborne infection. Correct. What is the hallmark sign of your measles? The hallmark sign of measles will be your Koplik spots. Okay? Now tuberculosis, to be airborne, it has to be pulmonary tuberculosis. Okay? Varicella, you also call this a sure chicken pox. Okay? What is the hallmark sign of varicella or chicken pox? Answer, maculopapular rush. And of course, last is your herpes zoster. Okay? So these are what we call airborne infections. By the way, before a person, or shall I say a health practitioner, take good care of airborne infected cases, you need to have feet test. Okay, I hope you're familiar with that. So anyway, this is your airborne. Now let's recap. Airborne is your MTVHZ. Can you follow? And the ideal PPE here is your HEPA filter or N95 mask that must be changed every 8 hours. Okay, next is your droplet spread. Please allow me to erase the board. Okay. Now, when I say droplet, okay, droplet infection, droplet spread, this is far different from your airborne because the microorganism in droplet is quite huge. Because of its size, malaki siya, and it seems to be heavy. That is why when you emit the microorganism for droplet, because of its size and weight, it goes to a certain surface, right? So the droplet spread. That is why, what do you think is the size of microorganism for droplet infection? Answer is greater than 5 microns. Can you follow? Having said that droplet goes to specific surface, the question here, what must be the distance of the nurse, okay, from the patient to protect the nurse not to get droplet infection? Answer, safest distance must be more than 3 feet. Can you follow? Not less than 3 feet. Okay? Next, patient with droplet infection, what do you think is the most ideal PPE? Answer, your typical surgical mask, not N95. Okay? Now, I mentioned a while ago that N95 or your HEPA filter mask must be changed every 8 hours. Now, what about the surgical mask? When are you going to change this? Take note, you need to change your surgical mask. Remember the protocol? Change it every after patient. Alright? We have to change it every after patient. I know sometimes we don't do this here in the Philippines because the mask is quite expensive. But if you will take the licensure examination, do not answer the question based on your practice in your clinical setup. You have to answer the question on what is ideal because it's a qualifying exam. Okay? Now change it every after patient or change the mask if it gets soiled. Or change the mask how often? Every 4 hours. Q4. So N95, Q8. Here, every 4 hours. Okay? Let's go back. So when I say droplet spread, what are examples of your droplet infection? So you will have your droplet. Okay? So what is this? So you have your droplet. Okay? D stands for your diphtheria. R stands for your rubella. O stands for oral pharyngitis. P stands for pertussis. P stands for pneumonia. E stands for your erythema infectiosum. T stands for tetanus. T stands for tonsillitis. I stands for influenza, that's your flu. S stands for your scarlet fever, M stands for mumps. And M also represents meningitis. So these are examples of droplet infections, okay? Now, diphtheria, what do you think is the hallmark sign of diphtheria? Answer, pseudomembrane. Okay, that is why do not attempt to remove the pseudomembrane because it will bleed. Okay? Rubella, this is a lesser evil compared to your measles, right? So rubella, you call this as your German measles. Okay? Oral pharyngitis, pertussis. By the way, pertussis, the causative agent is your Bordetellin pertussis. Now, what makes pertussis different from a simple cough or typical cough? In pertussis, it is actually a condition characterized by 5 to 10 consecutive coughs. And on the last part, there is a hoop or stridor. Okay, again, in your cough, okay, cough like this, that's your cough, am I right? In your pertussis, there is 5 to 10 consecutive coughs. And on the last part, there is a stridor or hoop like this, 5 to 10. Can you follow? So, having said that in pertussis, it's 5 to 10 consecutive coughs, and on the last part there is stridor, what do you think is a possible complication or problem that may arise during pertussis attack? Answer, hernia. That is why one of the most important nursing responsibility during pertussis attack is to put some abdominal support to prevent a complication called hernia. Okay? Next is pneumonia. Okay? Next is your E for erythema infectiosum, T for tetanus, T for tonsillitis, I for influenza, S for scarlet fever. By the way, scarlet fever, what do you think is the hallmark sign of your scarlet fever? Answer, red strawberry tongue or white strawberry tongue. Do not confuse that with your Kawasaki disease. Kawasaki disease is strawberry tongue. Can you follow? Again, Kawasaki disease is strawberry tongue. Scarlet fever is red strawberry tongue. There is another disease that has something to do with your tongue, and that is your pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia hallmark sign is beefy red tongue or red beefy tongue or sore in the tongue. Okay? Anyway, that's for your scarlet. Next, M for mumps and your meningitis. Okay? So these are examples of your droplet infections. Okay? So in droplet, I said there is dropletism. Okay? Now what about for contact spread? Allow me to erase this, please. Now for your contact transmission or contact spread, okay, do not forget that if a patient has a contact infection, contact spread infection, take note, okay, do not share equipment. Can you follow? You cannot share BP apparatus, okay? You cannot share equipment. And by the way, a patient with contact spread infection, patient must have its own lavatory or sink. Okay? Patient must have its own lavatory or sink. And in your contact spread, the most ideal PPE here are the 2 Gs. Now what are these 2 Gs? You have your gown and then you have your gloves. Can you follow? These are important PPEs for contact spread. Now, give me an example of contact transmission or contact infections. Well, you have your cribs, MVH. Can you follow? Cribs, MVH. C stands for Clostridium difficile. R stands for your rotavirus. I stands for your impetigo. B stands for your bronchiolitis, or you also call this as your RSV or your respiratory syncytial virus. Please do not forget this, because sometimes nurses they commit mistake here, because when they see bronchial respiratory, they have to answer now droplet or airborne. Remember, this is contact spread. Okay? S stands for sexually transmitted infections or sexually transmitted diseases. They are contact spread. Okay? M stands for your MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. V stands for your VRSA, the vancomycin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. And H stands for your hepatitis. Now remember, there are different types of hepatitis. What hepatitis causes? Okay, what hepatitis is contact spread? Technique, contact, consonant. So all consonant hepatitis are contact spread. Now what are these consonant? So you have your B, C, D, F, and G. So these are your contact spread hepatitis. Can you follow? So again, in contact spread, you have your cribs, MVH. Can you follow? Next is your enteric. Enteric. Okay, allow me to erase this one. Or now, when I say enteric spread, you also call this as your fecal oral. Now, with respect to your fecal oral, of course, very important here is your hand washing. And part of your precaution about enteric spread is proper waste disposal and proper food handling. Am I right? That's your enteric. Now, what are examples of your enteric spread? So here will be your shh. Okay, S stands for sigilosis. S stands for salmonella. H stands for hepatitis. What type of hepatitis is enteric spread? Technique. Enteric starts with letter E. E is a form of vowel, right? So all hepatitis, vowel hepatitis are enteric spread. So this will be your hepatitis A and hepatitis E. Can you follow? Because consonant hepatitis are contact spread. Vowel hepatitis are your enteric spread. Can you follow? Okay, so here we have your shh. Okay, now what about reverse isolation? Okay, now your reverse isolation, you also call this as your protective isolation. Am I right? Next, when I say reverse isolation, this is a type of precaution that is actually indicated to patients who are immunocompromised. Okay, so who are those people, who are those patients said to be immunocompromised? So example here are those patients having what? Of course, patient having HIV/AIDS. Alright? Patients who are having what? Taking chronic steroids. Patient who had organ transplant. Am I right? Now who else? Okay, patients who are diabetic, because at least when you're diabetic, you're also immunocompromised. Elderlies are said to be immunocompromised. Even infant, because of immaturity of their immune system, are considered to be immunocompromised. Okay, patients taking what? Patient taking chemo drug or having chemo treatment. Patient having what? Radiation therapy. Okay, radiation treatment and a lot more. Okay, and those patients taking what? Other immune suppressant. Even, okay, if you're taking, what do you call this? If you're taking for a long period of time an herbal med called Echinacea, okay, it can cause immune suppression as well, autoimmune. Okay, now reverse isolation. Do not forget that the ideal room for the patient is a positive pressured room, and I explain it why. Okay, remember when it's positive, it gives air. Am I right? It gives air. So preventing the microorganism to get inside the room, so you protect the patient. Okay, not to harbor infection from other people. Okay, and take note in reverse isolation. Take note, you need to avoid breathing, okay, fresh flowers. Okay, even vegetables inside the room. Can you follow? Avoid eating raw meat. Can you follow? Okay, and take note, avoid giving patient milk. Why? Milk is a good medium for bacterial growth. Okay, and part for this is, of course, you have to limit visitors. And question, what do you think is the ideal PPE here? Of course, you have to wear all PPEs. Why? Because you have to protect the patient to get harbored infections, different, okay, transmission, mode of transmission of infection. Can you follow? So these are the different transmission-based precautions under Tier 2. Now highlight in your exam. Allow me to erase this, please. Now that you know the 2 tiers under universal precaution, please be reminded that the common question here is actually cohorting patient. Now, when you cohort patient, okay, it means to say that you mix patient. Am I right? You cohort patient according to what? cohort according to age. Am I right? You cohort patient according to gender. You cohort patient according to causative agent or according to infection. Can you follow? Question. Can you cohort patient with tuberculosis, PTB, and patient with measles? Can you cohort them together in the room? No. Sir, they're the same airborne infection. Yes, I did not say cohort according to mode of transmission. You cohort according to infection or according to infection. Why? If you group these two, in one room, a patient with TB will eventually get measles, and a patient with measles will eventually get tuberculosis because they are both airborne spread. So do not cohort patient based on mode of transmission. Cohort them according to infection or according to its causative agent. Can you follow? Now next, another highlight in your exam. Question. A patient is having pulmonary tuberculosis. What do you think is the ideal room for your patient? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. First is what we call what type of isolation precaution will you observe for patient with tuberculosis? Number 1 is your universal precaution. Number 2 is your droplet precaution. Number 3 is your contact precaution. And number 4 is your reverse isolation. Remember, PTB is actually airborne, correct? It just so happened there is no airborne in the option. What do you think is the best answer? The answer is universal precaution. Remember I said that Tier 2 is under the umbrella of your Tier 1. Okay? Now, what if there is another option? Here is your airborne spread. What will be your answer? Answer will be 1 and 5. Can you follow? Remember why 2 answers. In your NCLEX, particularly in NCLEX, multiple choice has 4 options. If there are more than 4 options, it could be SATA, that select all that apply, or it could be drag and drop. Remember, there are 5 options. Can you follow? So most probably it's select all that apply. Universal precaution is correct. Airborne transmission is also correct. So you can choose 1 and number 5. Can you follow? So that's it. I hope you learned something about infection control. Okay, just drop a message on my Facebook if you have any questions. Thank you so much, and God bless everybody. Bye.